Here's a chat that I did, a conversation with Keith Charles and Bill Rich that Keith had on his Facebook page, and I'm videoing it so you can see it yourself.
Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Shooting the Breeze. It's a pleasure for me. I hope it's going to be for our guest, because I've got a great friend of mine. I've known her for a long time. In fact, I knew this lady before she had the Gibb in her name. So
yeah, exactly.
It was Linda Short then. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Reverend Lyn Gibb-de. Hi, Lyn. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. All the better for seeing you two guys.
Well, very kind. And of course, my
I am kind. I'm known for my kindness.
Yeah. We call it creeping, but there we go. Well, I'm pleased that people are going to join us today, and I want them to ask and interact with us by asking any questions that get raised whilst we're having this chat. And when we do Shooting the Breeze, it is a cosy chat. We might have different opinions, we might not agree with what we say, but that's the beauty of friends. We can talk about it and share it with other people and let them come forward and see what they want to say. So it's nice to see Jan here and others that thank you. So we're going to start off. Let's start off, if you don't mind, Lyn, just a brief synopsis, which is absolutely impossible because her CV goes longer. It's longer than a roll of wallpaper.
Well, it would be just toilet roll, actually. Yeah, one of those toilet rolls.
Yeah. So just tell people about you and about yourself, and just a quick hello to people to let them know who you are, what you've done, for those that might.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I've never, you could ask Derek Robinson, our dear departed friend, who's probably still looking in now and wagging his finger at us. I was never one for any quick hellos or anything, but it depends what kind of things people want to know. I'm quite old, done quite a lot, came into spiritualism when I was sort of middle years, and I was always a bit strange, but when I came into spiritualism, it was tied into my sporting activities. I was already very involved, I had been all my life, with ice skating, speed skating particularly, with a bit of ice hockey thrown in, and one of my speed skaters was a spiritualist, Kay Dibbling, as she was then, Kay Perkins now, and she told me that a medium was on at her local church after my dad died, and I was devastated, and I said, oh no, I'm too busy to go to church. I thought, I'm not going there. And anyway, did persuade me, and I went along to Croydon actually, and I saw Ivy Scott, and that really, literally, she changed my life. And I took it up with a vengeance. I was determined to find out all I could about this amazing carry-on, and that's where I started. And talking of tributes, Keith, we ended up doing a tribute to the pioneers. Do you remember Derek Robinson presentation that time?
Ray Jordan was with us. I think that's a great idea you just come up with, a carry-on. Carry on spiritualism.
Yeah, right. Well, we were all good at that. I mean, some people used to be denigratory about us and say we could all be stand-up comics instead. But, we did like to try and lighten it up a bit, didn't we? These presentations. I mean, because we can't be too serious all the time, and we're talking to the dead, for God's sake.
Yeah. Well,
and there's people bereaved all the time, who desperately want messages from their loved ones in spirit, and we're the people who've got the responsibility of doing that. So I mean, no wonder we get hysterical and tell jokes.
Well, let's go on to your. We go slowly through this, and we'll pick little bits out. But let's go on to, if I can just say this, you're wearing a collar, aren't you?
Oh, I am.
A clerical collar.
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, people used to call it a dog collar, and they call it a clerical collar.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Lyn, in a serious way, and you can answer it any way.
Yeah.
Why do you wear it? And what does it? I want to ask you this: how are you react if people come and say, "What's that?" You know, in a not a nice way. Do you know what I mean? What are you wearing that bloody thing for?
Well, I was ordained as a spiritualist minister in 2003 when I left Psychic News. About a month after I left PN, I was editor there. People may not know or may know. For a few years, the weekly spiritualist newspaper founded by Maurice.
We'll go to that in a minute.
Yeah, all right, This is how it happens. You know what I mean? You asked me a question, I should answer it. And I was ordained by the United Spiritualists in 2003 because I'd moved away from the SNU, and I was interested more in a wider sort of more religious aspects of spiritualism, and I didn't feel that that was being served previously. So I was actually ordained as a minister, and it is a vocation. And what I was told then by Reverend Alan Bowley, bless him, was, you know, you have to be, when you wear a collar, you have to, clerical garb, and you're in this office, you have to deserve the respect you are going to receive. And, you know, and of course, as you said, Keith, you know, you don't always get respect for you know, when people see a collar. But when I first was ordained and I first was in the ministry and wore a collar, I felt honoured. I felt privileged to be able to help people in a certain way, to take their funerals and marry them and, you know, name them and bless them and do all sorts of things that, you know, seemed to be heightened by the fact that I had been ordained into a spiritualist ministry. So that's what it means to me. And as for people being anti, I don't get that very much.
Let me ask you something, because I'll ask Bill, really. Lyn said something that I think touches both of us, Bill, is that she said you feel privileged when you're actually... I believe that you do, Bill. I've heard you say this before, and I do. You're privileged to actually work for Spirit.
Yeah. With Lyn taking, I called it taking the oath. I don't mean it that way, but you'll get where I'm
coming. Well, I did. I did.
Yeah, I might know something new. And to put the work in and the effort in, I admire anyone to do that, because it brings back the divinity in what we do as mediums and mediumship and spiritualism as a whole. Yeah. So, no, 10 out of 10, I totally agree with that. It means something. Yeah. You've earned it. And I will say, there are some I've seen ordained that run things off as a matter of fact, off pat. And there are some that speak from the heart. When you speak from the heart, all the audience will listen to that.
Oh, yeah.
Here's one for you, Lyn. You'll enjoy this. Lawrence. He said, stop ruining Keith's schedule, Lyn. You know us men can't multitask.
Who says that?
Lawrence Saville. He's a minister.
I know Lawrence. Yeah, I did a service with him.
Yeah.
So he's been a sufferer. He suffered me as well.
Say a few prayers for him, Lyn.
I do.
Bill, we've got to say a few prayers for Lyn.
I pray all the time. All the time. Well, look, the fact is this. Like, let's get it straight. Well, not me, I'm not straight, as we know. But let's get it straight. And the fact is that we all pray. Spiritualists are known for praying all the flaming time. You know, we pray for everything because our prayers are asking. And we ask all the time for everybody, don't we? Everyone we flaming see, even if they don't know. And in fact, at one point, people were saying that it's assaulting people if you offer to pray for them. So if you don't tell them you're praying for them, they don't know they're being assaulted in this way, and they may just get a lot of help. So this is what I do, and I think we all do that. So, you know, don't listen to people who say you can't pray for people because it's assaulting them or it's not their religion or whatever. And it doesn't matter if they don't believe in God. We do, and we know that, you know, our prayers get answered in due time and according to his will. So I think that, you know, spiritualists are known for their praying, but they don't put it about that much. But people like me that wonder about wearing collars do.
Do you think, going back to what you're saying, and you're very eloquent about what you say, because when you're in the psychic news, that was quite a heavy burden to actually receive and deal out what
Yeah.
is good and what is bad and what is not even worth reading.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I had a bin called Miscellaneous, and that's where most of the poetry went.
Yeah. Do you know what I loved about the psychic news? When you did have a newspaper, like most men, I go to the back pages because that's where all the adverts were about the churches that you could go to. And when I started, Lynn, I thought, you know what I'll do? I went to every church that was advertising and said, I'm a new medium, would you give me a chance? And I wrote to everyone. I just feel there was something that we've missed. I know Derek, we spoke about Derek, and he's a good friend to both of us, but he was a supporter of the psychic news, but it dwindled, didn't it? The psychic news actually in paper exercises. And why do you think, do we become as spiritualists maybe too au fait? Oh yeah, I can read that anytime, a bit like I can see any medium anytime, you know? It's
I don't know I don't know if it's that actually, Keith. As a professional journalist, which, you know, I have been, as you know, apart from being a spiritualist, I mean, before I was appointed to Psychic News, you know, and apart from the fact I'd been on the SNU's New Communicator as their editor for a year or two, before that I was a sports journalist. So, like, you know, Philistines are us, you know. But the fact is that, you know, I know that people's attention span is not very large. I'm not saying that we're like goldfish, you know, with a few seconds, but, you know, definitely people don't necessarily want to read about stuff. They'd rather see it happening or talk about it. And I think that's why social media and digital, you know, online stuff and websites are so popular, and chat rooms and so on. And hopefully like this, you know, because the newspapers and the articles tend to sort of, you know, people need the time to sit and read them and, you know, inwardly digest. And the thing is that, you know, Arthur Findlay, he wanted that college to actually teach general subjects as well. He used to bemoan the fact that a lot of our mediums, good mediums, hadn't had the kind of background schooling, you know, to the level that he thought they should have. And so he wanted that college to actually not just teach spiritual studies and psychic science, he also wanted it to offer a grounding in the basic 3 R's to mediums who may otherwise not have grasped that. And it wasn't patronising, it was just, he was just, you know, that was his take on it. And I think sometimes when you're looking at newspapers and their readership, it's a niche market anyway, spiritualism, as you know, and people just want to do things and they want to go to the meetings, they want to have messages and things mostly, and they don't necessarily want to read the whole Megillah about how and why and what and where and who did what and somebody else's messages. Do you see what I mean?
So I'm being a bit
cynical there. And I think, you know, I mean, Psychic News is actually morphed into a magazine, which I think is quite well received, and it's reasonably popular. But just in the same way that other newspapers and magazines are, I think. I don't think that just because they're called spiritualists that they're any different to mainstream newspapers and magazines.
Well, let me ask Bill. Bill, you used to read the Psychic News, didn't you?
can I just touch on two things, Keith? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really interested, and that Lynn said that about trying to give education to the mediums, the 3 R's. When you look back on a lot of the good physical mediums and etc., going back through history, a lot of them were very, very poorly educated.
Yeah.
And I did read something once where one guy said because they've got that lack of education, they're able to channel more because they don't think so much. They let it happen.
I read that too. Do you know
Yeah.
what? When I first started in this, I was told that I would never be any good because I knew too much. I was too clever by half.
Yeah.
And like I would fizzle out, and like I really took that to heart, and I worried about that. But it's not true. You can be as clever as you like and be as educated as you need to be, and you will still receive input from spirit who are similar to yourself.
Exactly.
I think that's what you do in life, isn't it, Bill?
And the fact is this, that if you are an educated medium, educated in the ordinary sense of the word, educated medium, you actually will receive quite a lot of input from people who walk this earth, who are also similarly, intellectual or whatever. So I can, and although at the same time you can still connect with people who are very just everyday and ordinary, and ordinary people that didn't get past even primary school perhaps or something, in their time. Because their spirituality is never in question. Spirituality is not a matter of education, never has been. But, nobody asks what school Jesus went to, do they?
No, but I will say this.
Moses never went to school.
My turn. we do say this, Lynn, that people might be the most educated people in the world, but one thing they lack is common sense.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
They don't even know how to open the front door unless you show them. Now,
you've been talking to my dad, Keith. You've been talking to my dad, because that's what he used to say about me.
I would say this about Bill, if I may, and people might know Bill's story. Bill was not the most educated person when it came to school because he was never there, right? But, Bill, you have some great addresses. You give some great prayers with words that Madge Summerfield, who I know, she comes out with words that if you wasn't giving them in trance or when she's inspired, she wouldn't even know what they meant herself. Do you know what I mean? So when you're guided, and how do you deal with that, Bill? Do you see it as an achievement for you?
I do.
Yeah.
The stupid thing was, even though as much as I was in trouble, and I was, as you know, Keith, I was highly intelligent, right? I was very highly intelligent. But I always believed that the greatest language you can speak is when people hear it from here. Right? When you speak, you can speak the most eloquent of words, and it contains nothing. But if you come to it with feeling and from the heart and with spirit, you've got power. And I think my education, what I've learned with spirit is let them guide you. The words come. How many times, Keith, you've said it? Where did that word come from? Why did I say that? I think that's the beauty of it. And I always believe if you can't speak the language of the people, you might as well shut up and not speak.
See, I will say this in front of Lynn.
And do you know that Maurice Barbanel, as clever as he was, he used to say that sometimes he would look at his work and wonder and think, wow, I didn't know that word, I didn't know that word. And it has actually happened to me. And I think that, to be a pure channel for spirit, to be able to channel their teachings, you don't have to know anything. You're absolutely right. Not anything about down here. You just have to be able to hear them and relay what they say to you.
Lead me down this path. Teaching. Right? The word teaching. You have, I don't want to say experimented, I want to say experienced different teachings from, let's say, SNU, Greater World, whatever it might be.
Oh, yeah. Teachings down here.
Yeah. And now, I read not so long ago on your page, I say not so long ago, you started a new society. Tell me about that, please.
Well, this was really because of the sort of strictures and the regulations and the rules and everything, and on top of which, in 2008, there was a repeal of the Fraudulent Mediums Act, and everybody was running for cover, which they should not have done. They should have fought back. There were a few of us.
Go on, tell us. I really, really want you to. I've written it down here. Is this the bit we're talking about for entertainment purposes only, Lynn?
Yes,
Because
it
you
is.
did a great page. You did a great page.
Yeah. Because what they started to say now that it was a European directive, so don't let's talk about that. We're out of Europe now, thank God. However,
I like you.
I hate comments now. Oh, we needed Europe. No. Oh, let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Don't mention the war. Anyway. So, like, you know, here we are, right, in freedom, and we were told that we had to repeal certain of our acts under their new trade descriptions.
Oh, there's a result.
Right. You know, mediumship has never been a trade. But somebody here, some bright decides they'll repeal that as well. So I went on air, I went on radio shows, I went on shows I never even thought would invite me. I think it was Kiss FM.
Yeah.
Can you believe that one? And I was arguing with the lawyers from the SNU. Oh no, it gives us more freedom. I thought freedom is to do what? You know what I mean? So anyway, the thing is this, that on top of that, they started selling insurance.
Right.
Insurance to mediums and insurance to healers. That had been going on a long time. But I looked into all that and I thought, listen, if you do something wrong in the eyes of the law, as you well know, Keith, you know, my ex-CID guy, you know, you can't give an insurance paper to an effing judge and say, here, look, I'm insured against this. If you are nicked, you are nicked for misconduct and being naughty. You can't insure against that. So, like, I was arguing against that. And what happened was they did repeal the Fraudulent Mediums Act. And I thought, I've got to get in amongst this. And I said to them upstairs, what do I do? And they told me, you start a new society. They gave me the name. They told me what I was going to do. And that's what I did. So basically, like everything else that we do, you know, the spirit world, those who love us over there and are keen for us to sort of progress here and make something of this world, they told me to do that, and that's what I did. And also to make it inclusive and to encompass, you know, other religions, because, you know, spiritualism itself can be seen as a standalone religion, can it? But, you know, as in the SNU, but I don't think so. I think that, you know, people's spiritual pathways are all different and they may be all just as valid. If they are spiritualists, that is, they believe, as we do, that there is life after this life and that you can communicate with those in the world of spirit through mediumship, you know, that's enough. It's enough to say, that's it, you're a spiritualist, mate, join our club. You know what I mean? And you don't need that. So that's how I started it. And the thing about this for entertainment purposes only, or it's an experiment, listen to that one. Oh, this is an experiment. What? You wouldn't sit there for half an hour as an experiment. You know what I mean? Sort of wrestling to try and find.
I've been guilty of it, Lynn, because that's what we were told. Bill's been guilty of it. Yeah. But what?
Yeah, but the thing is, the people that were telling everybody that's what they should be doing were doing it for what purpose? I have no idea whatsoever. They were in the
television. When I used to go on the television,
the Department for Business at the time, who I contacted, said they had no interest whatsoever in practices of any religion. and that included mediumship, and they couldn't understand why spiritualists thought that they would be covered by the trade's description regulations, because they had nothing whatsoever to do with mediumship. And I've got a letter to that effect by Peter Deft of the department.
About being a healer or being a medium, and you say it doesn't make you a good healer, it doesn't make you a good medium because you've got insurance. And, and they say, well, I'm insured. It doesn't mean anything. No. Insurance doesn't mean anything. Bill, we've had this conversation before.
And we've had that conversation with many mediums, haven't we?
Yeah. So where do you stand when you're and I know you've got, I like the way you are, as in you're balanced. You know, you're not just, oh, well, I do this and that's it. You know, like, that's what you try and be. But where do you stand when, I'm interested, you know, in the psychic news, when you actually, we're talking about fraudulent mediums, some mediums were exposed for different things through the psychic news. And I've only got to pat you on the back for that, you know? And then some people would say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Why? Why can't we go clean? We need some sort of policing, don't we, Lynn?
We do, and I think that's the whole point. You know, we're not an anarchy. We try not to live in chaos, and we try to do things right. And I think that if you are a genuine medium, you do your best. As long as you've got a link with spirit, you don't have to say you're doing it for fun or anything like it. You can just say, I'm in touch with the world of spirit, and I've got somebody here who wants to communicate with you, and you can give them whatever you've got. And if you do it in good faith, literally, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And I also don't think that as a healer, as long as you obey the common sense, you know, outlines that your own self will tell you, and those who help you in spirit will guide you as well. You know, you've got no need to worry about all that. And the fact is this, that like I keep saying, you know, we are a church, right? So my particular society regards itself as a church, because a church is the people and it's you know, in its principles. And we don't need to be insured any more than the Archbishop. I think we should ask the Archbishop of Canterbury and everybody else if they are insured, because they tell people that they're going to live after they die, and tell them what they're going to do, and they do healing services and healing ministry. They pinched all our stuff.
And they actually do communication.
You're saying that we're known persona grata in church circles, as far as the Church of England and the established churches, you know, Roman Catholic churches and so on, you know, spiritualists, you know, we talk to the dead, so, you know, it's demonic. What load of rubbish is that?
Well, there's an interesting thing with this. People are always trying to catch out mediums. And you meet someone and they say, you're all fakes and charlatans, prove it to me. Right? They're always getting first. But when you say, prove it to me that there isn't, you've got no answer.
Yeah, I think it's a problem really for us when we meet cynicism like that, because if a skeptic challenges you, they're already putting a barrier up, and it's very difficult, and you have to be very, very a very adept medium indeed to get past that barrier that they set up. They set up a psychic barrier that repels us, and it makes it very difficult to give them a message, to give them the proof that they want. But I think really they don't want any proof, and that's what they're doing. They're just blocking us off.
I think they're frightened. They're frightened of getting the truth. Don't you, Bill? They're frightened. Skeptics, I'm a healthy skeptic. I'm a healthy skeptic because it keeps me.
Oh yes. You have to think, like, you know, you have to analyse what's going on. Yeah.
But then you get these skeptics. I'm sure. Lots of them, and I forgot what his name was, but he was doing shows as a skeptic, and it's like he's trying to find out for himself if you know they're actually running you down they're arguing with you, so to see if it actually
You
lands in.
you don't mean like James Randi, for instance?
Oh yeah, I've done Randy. I did.
Yeah,
did
no,
Randy.
I did him as well. He actually refused. Eventually, the News of the World, do you remember that good old paper? They tried to set up, they asked me while I was still at Psychic News if because I did the last Harry Houdini seance, by the way, at the Magic Circle Theatre in Bloomsbury. The last one of the 20th century, I sat for that. I was the medium there, and you never heard anything about it at all, right? They just blanked it out news-wise. Nobody knew about it, including the Magic Circle kept quiet. Although you can see some of it on Google if you look, Harry Houdini seance. And the thing is this, that the Magic Circle and the people like it have got some kind of vested interest in debunking spiritualism all the time, you know. And Darren Brown, yeah, he was a guy who, in his skepticism, was trying to prove that we were all frauds. But Randy was actually challenged by the News of the World with me. And he kept sending messages. Would I do this? Would I do that? I would be in another room. I wouldn't see who anybody was. This, that, and the other. And they were desperate to set it up. So you know, they really thought that I'd probably get the £1 million. Do you remember? $1 million challenge.
But having said
But
that,
he backed off. He backed off, and he would not meet me. And yet everything was set up by the News of the World for me to go to America and do it.
I did it the other way round. The News of the World, through Derek Schaff, who was my writer then, and he's an ex, well, he's no longer with us, but he was an ex reporter, you know.
Yeah.
He with the psychic, not the Psychic News, with the News of the World, we sent the challenge to him.
Right.
And he came back and he said the reason he won't do it. This is Randy, and I told him where to go when I actually met him physically.
Yeah, right, right.
When he's doing it, he wants to have. This is one thing I asked him. He wants to have your history, right?
Yeah.
So that if you say I've got your mum here, her name's Mary, just for argument's sake, it's got to be in the history, all right, in your deeds, etc. And I said to him, well, what happens if I've got a friend of this person? They're not going to be in it. They cannot be in my, what do they call it when you've got all your family tree? He said, what is your family tree? I said, well, that's not going to happen. And I actually said to him, let's do it this way. And the News of the World did it, and he refused again to come to us.
Yeah.
And then when I was on TV with him, just to run through, he was on TV, and he came on. We couldn't do the show